I never believed in curses or ghost stories until I found myself trapped in a town where every single person dies on the exact same day. I don't know how or why it started, but I'm living proof that no matter how far you run, you can't escape what's meant to happen. And now I'm counting down the hours before my own death, in a place where time seems to bleed into nightmare. Thank you for watching. For more terrifying tales, please subscribe. Arrival. The rain lashed against my windshield, blurring the road ahead. I didn't realize it then, but I'd made a wrong turn onto an old country road. My GPS was dead, displaying a big red S for signal lost. Frustration simmered, turning the quiet hum of the engine into a roar in my ears. I wrestled with the steering wheel. Why couldn't I remember the route back to the main highway? It was all that mattered right now. With dwindling patience, I squinted through the torrent. Street signs loomed, only they weren't any help. They were worn, their paint chipped and faded. Just as despair threatened to engulf me, I spotted a break in the storm clouds above a cluster of buildings up ahead. Hope surged. Maybe I'd find shelter and someone who could point me in the right direction. Rounding a bend, I gasped, pressing hard on the brake pedal. I skidded to a halt in front of a rusty signpost. "Welcome to Hallowbrook," it proclaimed in peeling paint. A shiver danced down my spine, but it had nothing to do with the weather. There was something eerie about this place, something that sent a chill deeper than the rain could manage snaking up my spine. Cautiously, I entered the town. Thick woods pressed close to either side of the road, forming a tunnel of sorts, with the trees' gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Rolling fog swirled at my feet, giving the impression that the town was floating in a sea of mist. Unyielding, determined to push on, I drove slowly through the unsettling scene. As I moved further into Hallowbrook, the houses grew closer together. Quaint Victorian-style homes with porch swings and flower boxes overflowing with colorful blooms lined the street. It looked like a postcard picture of Americana. If it weren't for the vacant stare of each house, the unnerving stillness that clung to them like cobwebs. It was as if the town had been abandoned in the blink of an eye, leaving behind only a facade of normalcy. I pulled into what seemed to be the only diner in town. It was called the Starlight Grill. The word "home" was spelled out in flickering neon lights above the door, casting an inviting glow on the wet pavement. Hope flickered within me. Surely someone would be inside. Surely someone could help me. But as I pushed open the door, my breath hitched in my throat. The bell above tinkled, but there was no response. The diner was empty. Tables were set with plates and cups as if waiting for customers who would never arrive. A half-eaten pie sat on a counter, a newspaper abandoned nearby. The silence was heavy, punctuated only by the rhythmic drumming of rain against the window. Stepping outside, I checked my phone again, but the screen remained stubbornly blank. The sky rumbled ominously and the rain intensified. Lost, alone, and with darkness falling, I knew I had to find somewhere to stay. Tonight, somehow I would survive this night in this town where secrets lurked around every corner and the past refused to stay buried. Meeting the stranger. As twilight deepened, casting long shadows across the town, I continued my search for shelter. Empty streets echoed beneath my feet. The wind, whispering through the trees, took on a mournful tone, seeming to carry secrets too terrible to be spoken aloud. Just when despair threatened to overwhelm me, a figure emerged from the gloom. An old man, cloaked in a long coat, his face partially hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. He stood motionless for a moment, seemingly observing me from behind his shadowed facade. Then he spoke, his voice raspy like the rustle of dry leaves. "You shouldn't be here." His words were a warning, clear and concise. Confused, I responded, "I'm sorry, sir, but I really need some help. My car broke down and I can't seem to find anyone around. Could you direct me to someone who might assist me?" He regarded me for a long moment, his gaze penetrating the layers of my facade until he finally sighed, a sound heavy with resignation. "This town doesn't offer the help you seek. You should go while there's still time." Ignoring my confusion, he turned and began walking away, disappearing around a corner as quickly as he'd materialized. Curiosity battled with caution within me. Who was this enigmatic man, and what was the nature of this town's unsettling secrecy? I decided to follow him. As I rounded the corner, I found myself in a small park. A weathered statue of a woman stood in the center, her face obscured by creeping vines. The old man was nowhere to be seen. Disappointment settled over me. Perhaps my quest for answers would remain unanswered. Just as I considered turning back, the stranger reappeared. He stood before me, his eyes gleaming with an otherworldly intensity. "Why does this place feel so unsettling? What happened here?" I asked, voicing the questions that had been swirling in my mind. The man's expression tightened, his lips pressing into a thin line. Some places bear witness to tragedies so profound, the echoes linger, seeping into the very fabric of existence. Such is the case here. "What tragedies?" I pressed, my curiosity overriding my caution. He hesitated, his gaze drifting towards the statue of the woman in the park. "Here, the veil between the worlds is thin. It's a place where the dead refuse to rest, where souls are trapped and destinies intertwined." The curse explained with a heavy sigh. The man began his tale, his voice echoing the sorrow of ages past. "In days of yore, when the town was known as Whisper Creek, a shadow fell upon the land, a darkness that twisted hearts and led to deeds of unspeakable horror." He paused, his eyes distant, as if reliving the pain of those bygone days. When the full moon hung heavy in the night sky, a pact was forged in desperation, a bargain struck with forces beyond our understanding. In exchange for salvation, a sacrifice was demanded, a life for a life. But the curse bound to that agreement ensured that sacrifice would be repeated every 50 years, taking with it the lives of every soul in the town. He turned, fixing me with a haunting gaze. "Each soul carries the mark of the curse, each life numbered. And when the appointed day arrives, they perish, their spirits lingering, unable to find peace, condemned to repeat the tragedy until the end of time." His words hung in the air, heavy with foreboding. But one question clawed at my mind. "How do you escape a fate like this?" I asked, hoping against hope for a solution. The man shook his head, his face etched with sorrow. "Escape is a luxury we do not have. We are held fast by the chains of destiny. All we can do is endure." Before I could respond, the sky rumbled, and the first fat drops of rain began to fall. "You should go," the man said abruptly, urgency lacing his voice. "You don't belong here. Find your way out of Whisper Creek before it's too late." The paranoia builds with the old man's cryptic warnings echoing in my ears. I hurried back to the diner, desperate to escape Hallowbrook before whatever fate awaited me. But as I stumbled into the darkness, a sense of dread washed over me. The empty streets seemed to mock my frantic steps. Each shadow took on a menacing form, each rustle of wind a whispered threat. Panic clawed at my throat, making it hard to breathe. As the night wore on, the townspeople began to stir. They emerged from their homes, but they weren't alive. Their eyes were vacant, their movements mechanical. They shuffled past me, silent and ethereal, their presence sending shivers down my spine. Fear propelled me toward the Starlight Diner, seeking refuge within its four walls. But once inside, terror gripped me. The old man was gone, vanished without a trace. As I huddled in the corner, shadows stretched long and distorted in the flickering candlelight. The wind moaned through the broken window panes, weaving a symphony of despair. Suddenly, a knock echoed through the diner, slow and deliberate, as if someone were testing the door. My heart pounded against my ribs. I pressed myself against the wall, trying to disappear into the darkness. When the knocking ceased, silence descended once more, heavy and suffocating. Then came the whispers, soft and insidious, slithering under my skin. Footsteps creaked on the wooden floor, drawing closer, accompanied by a low, mournful cry that tore at my soul. Terror froze me in place as the door creaked open, revealing only the swirling mist from outside. The hour of reckoning driven by a surge of adrenaline, I dashed upstairs, desperate to hide. In the dusty attic, cobwebs brushed against my skin, and the musty air filled my lungs. Amongst the clutter, I found a leather-bound journal. Its pages, brittle with age, contained the faded ink of someone trapped here, just like me. The last entry read, "The curse feeds on fear. It knows your name. It waits for you to accept your fate." There's no escape. Despair threatened to engulf me. Was I doomed to die here, to become another soul trapped in this town's eternal night? As the clock chimed midnight, the shadows seemed to reach out, icy fingers creeping up my spine. I collapsed onto the dusty floor, tears mixing with the grime. Then, in the distance, a knock sounded slow, deliberate, relentless. It echoed through the house, growing louder with each passing moment. Summoning a last reserve of strength, I crept closer to the window. The mist had vanished, replaced by a moonlit sky. Beneath the window, a single note lay on the ground. It simply said, "You cannot run from the day you were born to die." The truth revealed. Driven by a mix of curiosity and morbid fascination, I ventured into the town square. The moonlight cast long, eerie shadows from the lampposts, stretching like skeletal fingers across the deserted streets. I searched for clues, for anything that could explain the mystery of Hallowbrook. And that's when I noticed it, a small, unassuming building, tucked away as if it didn't want to be found. Intrigued, I stepped inside. The musty air hung heavy with the scent of decay. Cobwebs brushed against my face as I moved through the maze of rooms, each one more cluttered than the last. Finally, in what seemed to be a storage room, I found it, a dusty mirror hanging on the wall. I stared into its depths, expecting to see my reflection. Instead, I saw a dark, imposing figure emerging from behind me. It spoke, its voice echoing in my mind. This curse isn't just a fate, it's a cycle. The souls trapped here are doomed to die again and again on the same day, because someone must always pay the price. Terror seized me as I realized the horrifying truth. This place wasn't just a haunted town. It was my prison. The shocking twist. With a jolt, I awoke in a hospital bed. Tubes snaked away from my arm, their rhythmic beeping a stark contrast to the pounding of my heart. A nurse smiled reassuringly as she removed them one by one. "You're lucky to be alive," she said softly. "You were in a coma for 50 years. Coma, 50 years." I looked down at my wrist, my fingers tracing the faded lines of a tattoo. October 13th, 1.